threenews.com. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kesmi 107.1 FM and across the country at threenews.com. Coming up in the next 60 minutes. Executive arm of government accused of meddling in Parliament's work after a letter from Presidency requesting the legislature to cease transmitting anti-LGBTQ bill for assent. Also, on this program, you are hereby ordered to provide a comprehensive report on revenue collection and distribution to various players in the power sector. You are also required to release a load-shedding timetable to guide power consumers on recent outages being experienced in the country. That would be the order by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission to the ECG. Some accountability for consumers. We have details. And much later, military helicopter makes an emergency landing at Bonsukrom in Agunan Kwanta in Western region. We'll bring you more on the story. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, President Akufo-Addo has been accused of meddling in Parliament's work following a letter requesting the legislature to desist from transmitting the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill to the President for assent. In a letter addressed to Parliament on Monday, March 18, and signed by the Secretary to the President, Nana Beatrice Adu, the Presidency said that the President can only take a decision on the fate of the bill if the two pending applications against the constitutionality of it are determined by the Supreme Court. Two private citizens have gone to the Apex Court, seeking, among others, to halt the passage of the bill on grounds of its unconstitutionality. The letter from the Presidency contends that it would be improper for Parliament to proceed with transmitting the bill to President Akufo-Addo for any action until the matters before the court are addressed. It pointed out that the stance taken by the Presidency follows an advice by the Attorney General on the matter. Well, the responses have been swift, with former President John Mahama describing the letter as unconstitutional. Take a listen.
And so I don't pay me sorry, who let her be a free president. Secretary for Eco Parliament. A man warning says Sakrata no more farm ma president office umpo. Na obi obe lawyer be abeka say president secretary need to me say obetimi atro so letter no. If he say Parliament a constitution and a ashem rama omo say omo ye sa e ni wi a omo fan ko president on. Enti untimi nka say ma onye ne juma say on fam reompo obetimi aka say obi say ma president and sign enti me twen etie Supreme Court but untimi throw letter and ma clerk say mo on fa ma president as Jubilee House o enti no na wo hwe senya o throw letter no mpo a enye buo o throw letter no bibibi to say o tumi bi echa in Parliament. Na sa nyoma no say emma amambo no enkoye enti yedim say ye NDC de ye di mra so na ye behwe senya enyoma beko akosi.
You heard former President John Mahama there in summary entry saying that he does not agree. He thinks that the letter sent by the Presidency to Parliament is disrespecting Parliament, and also in the latter part said that the NDC respects law and order in the country. Well, legal practitioner and law lecturer Justice Ramsai, on his part, argues that the President is deliberately creating confusion to prevent himself from assenting to the bill.
Doesn't have any honest belief that the court, the injunction will be granted. What he's doing really is to play politics with the issue. In other words, he's going to succeed. He's going to succeed if all we are doing is to be doing back and forth. Whichever way it drags, time, moves, and then he gets his way. So he's not the president. The president's portraying or what he's doing is not about law. It's not even about the court. It is a way of making sure that he gets his way by creating a kind of confusion within the system. And then by the time the confusion is unraveled and it is resolved, he's probably out of office, or he's probably, the issue becomes stale. So I think that is the strategy the president is using. He's not, let's not even waste our starting law, because we have seen this same president in the time past where injunctions have been placed on him not to attend to bail, and he went ahead to, when people have made application, and he went ahead to give his accent, saying that he cannot be stopped from performing his constitutional duties. So it is lack of candor, it is lack of honesty which is causing the current situation to happen. And I know the president has no honest belief that the court are going to hear the matter today. He has no honest belief in the court processes that have been commenced. All what he's doing is to delay the matter and frustrate the process.
Senior lawyer Yao also argues that the president's secretary was wrong in submitting such a letter to the legislature and wants the clerk of parliament to send the bill to the presidency anyway.
The clerk of parliament has a duty when a bill is passed to send the bill to the president for his action one way or the other. That is a duty that is not discretionary as far as the clerk is concerned.
So should a clerk call the bluff of the presidency and still go ahead and send the letter?
That is his duty. That is his duty. That letter by the, should I say, the executive secretary to the president cannot necessarily be binding on the clerk.
So you would expect the clerk to send the letter anyway, or the bill anyway?
That's his duty. When a bill is passed, the clerk has a duty, to convey the bill to the president. He does that. That does not mean that the president should necessarily give assent to it. And so I have a problem when we are being called to split hairs on this issue, whether the clerk should send it or not. The bill has been passed. When it is passed, the president should be informed, notified, and that is the duty of the clerk of parliament. And so the fact that he sends it does not mean that the president should give assent to it. And I would not have any problem at all if the bill is sent to the president, for the president to react any way that he wants.
And you heard the senior lawyer Yao in that interview with me earlier. You're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM. My name is Beatrice Adu. Stay with us. And you're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM. My name is Beatrice Adu. We're bringing you that story and the reactions regarding the letter from the presidency to Parliament asking the House not to bring the anti-gay bill to it until the cases in court have been dealt with. And of course, like we've just heard, there have been a number of reactions coming through, not just from Parliament itself, but also from the quarters of of certain individuals, civil society, and former President John Mahama. I'm joined on the line now by Mahama Yaga. He's the MP for Boku Central, also a member of the minority group in Parliament. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good evening.
Why is the minority so angry by the letter from the presidency?
Oh, well, I mean, after Parliament has gone through this very tedious process of crafting a legislation that we believe will protect our children and protect the moral fiber of our society, we're astonished to receive a letter from the Secretary to the President indicating that there's a suit in court and therefore we should not attempt to transmit the bill to the President for his signature. I mean, the tone of the letter is so disrespectful of a coordinate branch of government. And you cannot write to tell Parliament that Parliament should not bring the bill to the office of the President. Parliament should be able to bring the bill to the office of the President. When you receive it, what you do with it is then your business. You can receive it, and if your excuse is that there is a suit in the Supreme Court, and therefore, as a result of the pendency of that suit and the interlocutory applications therein, you are unable to act on it, that's a different matter. But to actually tell Parliament that Parliament should not attempt to bring the bill to a coordinate branch of government is just totally unacceptable. And secondly, the Secretary to the President really doesn't have that standing to send such a communication to Parliament. Our rules are clear on who can send a communication to Parliament. It has to be the President. It has to be the Chief Justice. And there are certain individuals under the Constitution and our standing orders that can send a communication to Parliament. So the communication that we're sending, that the bill was not being transmitted to the Secretary to the President. It was being transmitted to the President as a coordinate branch of government. And so it is the President that should have, responded. That's how we relate. And so the conduct of the Secretary to the President is just so unacceptable. So it's not the practice of this House.
So the minority is upset because you think Parliament has been disrespected by the letter and the wording of the letter to the House. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, but beyond that, it's just the attempt by the President to betray Ghanaians, because Ghanaians really want this legislation passed to protect our children, to protect our society. And so for the President to try to circumvent, the whole system and avoid assenting to the bill, using the court as an excuse, it's just unacceptable. If you recall, when the e-levy was before Parliament and the minority went to court, President still went ahead and then assented to the bill when it was passed. So basically, the pendency of a matter like that hasn't restrained the President in the past. So why will it restrain him now?
Ms. Ayaga, you are just saying that the President is just using the court cases or hiding behind the court cases to really express his stance that he doesn't want to sign the bill. That's what you're accusing the President of doing.
Well, I mean, that's what I read into all these things that are happening. If there's a case in court and there's an injunction restraining you from assenting to the bill, that injunction does not extend to restraining you to receive the bill from Parliament. The injunction is to prevent you from giving your assent to the bill.
I have spoken to...
It doesn't restrain you from receiving a copy from Parliament.
I have spoken to a senior lawyer, Yalberima. I'm sure you know him, and it's just also in line with the e-levy example you gave. And his argument is that these are two different cases. In this case, it seems that the two cases that are pending at the Supreme Court are directly asking the president not to even assent to the bill. In the e-levy case, if I may read just two of the reliefs that your members sought at that time, Haruna Iddrisu was your leader, and he was leading the minority caucus at the time. He said a declaration that on a true and proper interpretation of Article 104(1) of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, the passing of the electronic transaction levy by the 137 members of Parliament of the majority caucus present in Parliament on the 29th of March 2022 without the requisite quorum number of 138 members of Parliament present in Parliament is null and void and of no legal effect. The D, I'll just read the latter part of it, which is that the whole thing as passed in Parliament should be declared as a nullity. The argument of Yalberima is that these are two different cases. You were asking for the annulment of the bill. This time around, those two cases are directly at the president not to assent to the bill.
Yes, I'm saying that, granted that he's even making that argument, the applications in court relate to injuncting the president from assenting to the bill. But the letter relates to Parliament transmitting the bill to the President's office. So what is in court has nothing to do with the transmission of the bill to the President's office and the President receiving it. It is one thing to receive it when it is transmitted to your office. It is another thing to give the assent. So for the Secretary to the President to write to Parliament, to tell Parliament that don't even attempt to transmit it to us. When the matter in court is not about the transmission, the matter in court is about assenting to it when we have transmitted it to you. If the specific reliefs relating to Parliament are that we should not even transmit it, leave us suffer the legal consequences if we defy the court and we transmit it. But you cannot sit and say that we should not transmit it to you because there's a matter in court when the matter in court has nothing to do with transmission of the document to you. So you can see clearly that they are jumping at the opportunity, even when the opportunity hasn't presented itself. So, yes, receive it, but you can decide not to assent to the bill, and then you can cite the issues in court as your reason.
All right, we'll have to end it here with you. Thank you very much. And that was Mahama Yarga. He is the MP for Boko Central and also a member of the minority caucus in Parliament. We stay in Parliament because the minority leader, Dr. Kaysel Atu-Forsing, is demanding an immediate probe into the circumstances surrounding the disappearance of a number of biometric devices acquired by the Electoral Commission. He contends that the EC at a meeting with the leadership of Parliament on Tuesday indeed confirmed that the said 7 machines were missing. Addressing the press in Parliament, Atu-Forsing said that the failure to go to the bottom of this issue could compromise the integrity of this year's election. And we do have Duke Mensah Opoku, our correspondent in Parliament. He's got all the details. Like I said, this is coming in following a press conference led by the minority leader, Kaysel Atu-Forsing. You would recall that from the beginning, or actually this afternoon, we told you that the Electoral Commission was expected in Parliament to answer certain questions and relating to elections and some other issues that have been raised as well. Now, the minority leader in Parliament is zeroing in on a specific issue, asking that it is necessary, or actually saying it is necessary for Parliament to probe this matter because he thinks it could compromise the integrity of this year's election. And you do know how important this very election is to not just the opposition NDC that has been in opposition for the past 8 years and wanting to come back to power, and also a governing party that wants to break the cycle of 8 years in government and therefore some analysts argue that this could be a do-or-die affair for both parties, and the minority, including its leader, the opposition leader, John Mahama, have been insisting that this year's elections must be won at the polls, and it should be clear enough so that they wouldn't have to deal with any legal issues. And it seems that this is one of the reasons the minority leader in Parliament wants to ensure that every nitty-gritty of the process is scrutinized, so that they are sure that the election would be free and fair. Duke Meso Opoku joins us in the studio. He just returned from Parliament to bring us the latest. Duke, we've just had the minority leader there at that press conference insisting that the Electoral Commission has confirmed to the caucus that indeed 7 machines are missing, and he thinks this could compromise the integrity of the 2024 general election if this is not dealt with. What more can you tell us?
Yes, so today there was a meeting between the Electoral Commission officials and the leadership of Parliament. Initially, it was supposed to be a meeting of the Electoral Commission officials and the entire House, what they call a committee of the whole, or the entire plenary. But as it turned out, the leadership decided that rather they would have that meeting rather than to have the entire membership of the House. When I queried, or when I asked questions, I was told that they are doing that because they have a number of schedule clashes. They cannot break into a closed session to have that meeting when they have a number of businesses pending that they have to deal with. You know, they have to go on recess tomorrow. So we are told that it's one of the issues that came up about 7 biometric devices that are supposedly missing. The minority leader there today calling for an immediate investigation, or the investigative bodies to immediately get into this and find out the circumstances under which they were missing and which hands they've gotten into, because he believes that if they've gotten into bad hands, people who have unscrupulous, motives, that could very well compromise the quality and integrity of the elections, and that is not the situation that anyone wants to pertain. So they believe that this issue should be investigated. The AC must be forthright with what happened, and be quick to tell the general public what the facts are, and if there are anything that can be done to block these machines from being used, to render them obsolete, what can be done, because these are biometric devices, very high when it comes to technology and its use and the rest. And they believe that if this issue is not handled properly, it could compromise the election. Is the minority not overstretching this? To what extent did Atufosin paint a picture as regards to what extent this could compromise the integrity of the upcoming polls? Well, he is of the view that it's a serious matter. He takes a very serious view of the issue, because he thinks that this is an issue that it's at the very core of the election, because the biometric devices now, they verify the identity of people. It is even on the basis of these biometric devices that the EC was contemplating scrapping the use of the indelible ink, because these biometric devices can speak to each other if they have the right connectivity, so that if you vote in one place and you try and go and vote in another place, the biometric devices will quickly bell the cat and let people know that you are trying to engage in multiple voting, which is a crime, which is an electoral, is an infraction or an aberration of an electoral laws, and then you would be, handed over to the police. So it is based on the quality and the utility that is to be derived from these machines that the EC was contemplating doing that. And so they believe it's not necessarily really about the numbers, but what these machines in the hands of bad people could do to harm the election. That is the angle from which the minority leader is coming from. And for him to say that this was backed or this was confirmed by the Electoral Commission is what is dangerous. I think the Electoral Commission has to respond to this. Indeed. Was there any response from the majority side as well? No, we tried speaking to the leaders of the majority in the meeting. One of them told me that if they wanted the issues discussed in the meeting to be public, they would have done it at the plenary. So these are issues that they think that they were meant to be consumed at the level of leadership. That's why. So they were quite tight-lipped. But beyond the issue of biometric machines, when we spoke earlier about EC appearing before Parliament, there were certain issues that they had intended EC to address. Did those come out? Well, at forcing himself, ironically, was not in the meeting. So he addressed the press based on information that he got from his lieutenants, those from the front bench.
That's quite interesting.
Who were in the meeting themselves. And if we get a clip of the presser and we played, you would find out that he did indicate that he himself, personally, he was not in the meeting. But his lieutenants had briefed him that these were some of the issues that came up. Issues about closing time of polls, the AC deciding not to bring in a new CI, going by the old laws, the EC's preparedness, its budget, the electoral calendar, the issues that have been raised. All those are germane issues that its own calendar for registering first-time voters and all. These are issues that if you look at the EC's own calendar, as early as May, which is in just about 2 months, they intend to start registering first-time voters. Limited registration exercise. Parts of it are scheduled in May. And Parliament goes on recess tomorrow. They will come back in May. So if these are issues that are not addressed, they may come back from recess, and the EC would have started rolling its calendar out. So they needed to clear a number of issues that they had, the EC, before they go on recess.
Before you go, any other issue that came up in the House?
A number of things came up in Parliament today. Of course, the hot issue being the letter written by the Executive Secretary of the President to Parliament. Harun Adu has taken a very... he thinks it's an aberration of the Constitution, it's bad, and that he wants the Speaker himself to be in the chair. We are told the Speaker will be in his chair tomorrow. He's been out of the jurisdiction since last week. We are told he'll be in his chair tomorrow. He intends to raise it on the floor of Parliament so that Parliament will come to a certain resolution and address the President directly, because they think it's downright disrespectful for the President to communicate or through his assigns to Parliament the way and manner which this guy, people like Roxanne Dafiam believe that this is outrightly contemptuous of Parliament. They believe that this is contempt of Parliament and that the Executive Secretary of the President should be cited for contempt of Parliament.
Looks like interesting days ahead in Parliament. Thank you very much, Duke Mensa Opoku, for bringing us those details. And on that note, I'm joined by Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere, political analyst and lecturer at UCC. Good evening to you, Doc. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, my dear Beatrice.
First, from where you sit, what do you see as the ramifications of the President's letter to Parliament that seems to be boiling already?
The ramifications, if you asked me. Let me say good evening once again to your listeners and to your good self. The ramifications is the fact that, look, the corporate damage that the President is doing to the MPP tells me that they have lost the election even before the 2024 elections are opened by the EC. Because we are talking about a very sensitive, issue here. And I have noticed that the Christian community virtually have tried to give the President the benefit of the doubt. One too many. And all this while, the President seemed to have taken some kind of a disposition that is against what the Christian community, the Islamic community, and even the very Ghanaian position or disposition. And so for me, I see that we have a President who is physically and by name a Ghanaian, but mentally an European. That's the kind of
you're making some huge or serious comments this evening. Why do you conclude that he thinks European?
Now, I'm repeating that we have a president who is physically and by name a Ghanaian, but mentally an European. And I have a historical antecedent to this. Check the content of his interview at Al Jazeera or with Al Jazeera. The kinds of things and responses that he gave. He virtually sold us out that should there be an advocacy, probably we will change our minds along the line. So it tells you that we are talking about a president who does not really value what Ghanaian value is. He has no idea of what we stand for. And don't forget, he has been European trained. And so I'm not surprised that he's taking that position. But it surprises me that people will be surprised about the decision or the position that he's taking.
Why won't people be surprised when he was in charge and he said it? And we've played his video before that it will not be under his presidency that LGBTQI will thrive. He said that.
He said that marriage, homosexual marriage, he did not mention LGBT whatever. He said homosexual marriage. Now, that is not the answer the Christian community was looking for. You see, I'm of the view that the Christian community has given the president so many platforms of which he should have bluntly stated it unequivocally. Now, the point is that if you listen to the late Professor Mills, he was quite unequivocal. Mr. Mahama has been the same. What about Dr. Bawumia, who is contesting on the ticket of the MPP?
Won't Mr. Mahama say the same because he's in opposition? He doesn't have any responsibility to sign it now, so he can say it and also dilly-dally when it is his turn to sign.
Then we equally punish him on that when that period is due. The point is that, you see, the position of the president, I'm surprised that people are surprised about the position of the president. The dilly-dallying, as he's trying to do, you see, is very suicidal for the corporate image of the MPP. How can a president single-handedly think that his MPs, without any hesitation, have all, signed on to this? They all voted for this bill. What are you trying to tell the MPs who are the representatives of your people as far as your constituents are concerned? And I think that, you see, what is the president sacrificing? Sacrificing this particular sovereign entity for? And, I mean, I am not surprised. And I have said time without number that every day the president is saddled with an issue or a problem or a scandal that sends the MPP gradually into opposition.
Dr. Santiochi, you think that this very statement, the posture and the utterances of the president are that huge that it would send the MPP into position? You think Ghanaians are that concerned about this, that this would be the only reason they would vote for a political party?
Well, there may be other reasons, but this is a very sensitive one. You see, to the extent that the president, through the executive secretary, is putting encumbrances to the point of receiving that particular bill from Parliament, that in itself is very disheartening, is very disrespectful, it is really contemptuous of Parliament. And it makes me believe that, indeed, when we say that Parliament should be very distinct from the executive, this is the time that we should go, so that when the executive bring any bill to Parliament, they will...
Hello?
Okay. They will show him that they are the representatives of the people and not the other way around. And I think that, look...
Hello, Prof. Doc. Hello? Okay, we seem to have lost Dr. Jonathan Asante-Ochoa there. Let me try one more time. Hello, Doc. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. So I just want you to give us your final thoughts on really what you want the Parliament to do. And you seem to also give the suggestion that the MPP has already been damaged by the utterances and posture of the president. Asking you two questions in one. What can the party do if indeed the party has been damaged by this? And also what you expect Parliament to do, briefly.
Well, Parliament, they say that they are masters of their own rule. I expect the Speaker to speak without mincing words, which I believe he will do so because the kind of person that we have as the Speaker, you know, he will not shy away from speaking directly to the President and making them know that, you know, they are the representatives of the people. And it's just quite unfortunate. With respect to the party, we have a new leader, and the new leader is Dr. Bawumia. I'm not seeing any action coming from him. For me, it is very damning in the sense that if the leader of the party currently cannot alter or have a view over this, then he has no vision different from the president.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much, Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere. He's political analyst and lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. Thank you for speaking to us. Now, the Electricity Company of Ghana has up until March 25 to pay at least 262 million cedis to various players in the power sector. It has also been ordered to release a load shedding timetable to guide power consumers on recent outages being experienced in the country. The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, issued orders after determining that the power distributor was disregarding a presidential directive to distribute monthly revenue according to an agreed formula to all stakeholders in the value chain. The cash waterfall mechanism is a revenue distribution module that requires the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, to pay independent power producers graded as A-level stakeholders at least 514 million cedis monthly. Such stakeholders include Senpower, Amandi, and Asogli. Level B stakeholders are also to receive 300 million cedis monthly. The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, in a report analyzing revenue distribution, noted that the ECG had fallen short of allocation to the stakeholders by 262 million cedis. It has, as a result, issued orders with a clear timelines requiring ECG to release the said funds. Payment of the outstanding sums are to be effected by March 25. ECG is also required to submit incident report by March 27 on outages recorded in its operational areas since January 1, 2024. The power distributor is additionally required to show proof of informing consumers of these outages. ECG has recently announced possible outages due to overloading of its transformers. PURC wants a clear outline of how power consumers will be affected and when new transformers will be installed. The Commission notes that it has the power to impose sanctions, including pushing for prosecution and possible jail term of 2 years should its orders be ignored. And there are still some details in that statement issued by the PURC to this. But let's get to the Executive Director, Institute for Energy Security, Nana Mwese the 7th. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on Hot Edition.
Good evening to you, Beatrice, and to your listeners.
PRC seems to reinforce your challenge with the cash waterfall system that it has been ineffective, right?
Indeed the case.
And for you, the statement from the PRC, I've read the statement myself. It seems very strong. Why do you think it's taking the Commission this long, should I say, to bear its teeth strongly now?
Well, better late than never, Beatrice. But I'm sure the PRC probably took a soft stand, thinking that the ECG will comply with its directive and be more transparent to consumers. However, latest incident as to what might be pushing the PRC to take that, stronger stand, because at this point, from where the PRC sits, dealing with a lot of power sector players and what type of reports that they receive from them, as against ECG's own posture, it calls for a thorough investigation of the issues. So this time around, PRC wants to not just protect consumers, but even to protect the aspect of ECG. But if you come with a claim that almost 630 transformers are overloaded, the PRC wants to understand where are these transformers and how did they happen overnight, and how are you going to deal with them? Because it also has cost implications. Will it be impacting on tariffs in the long run, or should we salvage the situation so that it doesn't impact on the grid negatively? And so it is very important this time for PRC to come in stronger and to save the power sector. We have already given out indication that if we continue worsening the financial, constraints in the sector, it may, one day cause the collapse of an entire system. And so we understand the position of PRC now. They have to be tough so that they can save the the consumer and the national electricity grid.
And like I said, PRC portraying firmness in that statement, quite impressive. But it's not the first time we would hear any institution being firm and then people go to sleep. We don't seem to see the results of that, statement and request. From where you sit, what would be your expectation moving forward with this statement coming through?
Yes, it behoves on you and I, Beatrice, to follow the directive of the PRC to ECG, how they will end up dealing with it. I'm sure if they go and relax and we bring it to the fore, I'm sure that the same weight will be given to us. If we show that interest, then the PRC will also show the interest in this matter. Yes, we expect the PRC to follow through its own directive, but we also must be vanguard of the system as well.
All hands on deck. You are proposing beyond that. What would be your beyond that? Beyond that, what would be your recommendation so we are able to deal with this and we don't have to come here again?
It calls for a holistic approach. We are only seeing or hearing the issues in bits and pieces, but I'm sure that's why the PricewaterhouseCoopers, right?
Yes.
Were also, deployed to investigate and interrogate the entire system, a move that is being frustrated by the ECG, according to the PRC. Hence, the PRC calling for some, hard data to, I'm sure, to assist the firm to undertake that thorough investigation.
And indeed, you just quoted what the PRC said in that statement, that ECG frustrated this whole process. Why do you think the Electricity Company of Ghana would do that?
Well, we're not able to tell. But then it's rather give us the impetus to dig deeper and find why would you, frustrate a whole investigation or something that could even help you in the long run.
You think there's a rot to cover?
When we dig, we'll find. When we dig, we'll find.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much. Executive Director, Institute for Energy Security, IES, Nana Mwesye the 7th. Thank you for speaking to us. I brought you that information about the military helicopter crashing or having an emergency landing. There's a statement from the Ghana Armed Forces. I read that to you, issued some minutes ago. It says a Ghana Air Force helicopter with registration number GHF 696 at about 12:30 hours on Tuesday, 19 March 2024, made an emergency landing within the general areas of Bonsukrum near Agona in Kwanta in the Western region. The helicopter, which had on board 21 passengers made up of staff of the Ghana National Gas Company and aircrew, were conducting routine offshore power line inspection of the Atuabo gas plant when the incident occurred. All passengers on board have been accounted for and there were no fatalities. However, they have been evacuated and are currently undergoing routine medical checkup. Meanwhile, a preliminary assessment have commenced to ascertain the cause of the incident. More information to be released in due season. Signed by E. Agri Koshi, Brigadier General, Director General, Public Affairs of the Ghana Armed Forces. There you have it, information from the Ghana Armed Forces on that emergency landing that occurred this afternoon, and that statement confirming it occurred around 12:30 today. Now, the Presidential Committee on Emolument is calling for a transparent discussion to determine the appropriate salary recommendations for specific public office holders. The committee aims to resolve the long-standing division regarding recommendations for payments, with some asking for an end to such payments. Noble Crosby Annan has the rest of the story. And you're still here on Hot Edition. My name is Beatrice Adu, and we'll bring you that report later. It's now time for business, though. Michael is here to bring us the details.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to the business segment here on Hot Edition. Coming up this evening, economists warn CD to weaken further this year despite IMF bailout program. Details coming up shortly. I am Michael Obodu. Please stay. Let's head now straight into our top story as economist Dr. Saad Idrisu is cautioning the worst might still lie ahead for the cedi in 2024. This comes after Bloomberg named the cedi as the third worst performing currency in Africa. According to Dr. Saad, the local currency will continue to weaken despite the International Monetary Fund IMF's bailout program. He's therefore urging government to provide lasting solutions to Ghana's forex-related issues.
In high demand, so we should expect that the cedi will even perform worse again this year. So the IMF bailout may play a role, but it hasn't been able to stabilize the cedi as experts were thinking, because sometimes speculations could have driven this, but we are not seeing that. So government needs to step in with some temporary solutions like putting a temporary halt on this profit repatriation. Negotiate with these foreign companies, sit down with the management, the board of directors, find a way to limit profit repatriation for this particular year, unless it will help you to stabilize your cedi. Again, the abokis in the black market, find a way to regulate them. It will also bring about some stability. The long-run solution is to increase exports.
That was Dr. Saad Idrisu. He is an economist. Now, away from that, President Adu has reconstituted the board of the Tema Oil Refinery. The move, according to the presidency, is a component of larger program to revamp the oil refinery. The 11-member board of directors, including Kwame Bafo Abronye, will be led by Leon Kendon Apenteng as the chairman of the board and Kofi Mukumbi Tego as the managing director of the company. The change comes after earlier protests and agitations by workers of the refinery for the removal of the board of directors and management of the oil refinery over concerns of incompetence and mismanagement. Now we move away from that as findings from Wave 4 of the Ghana Business Tracker survey indicates that sales of businesses remain vulnerable despite improvements post the pandemic. Medium-sized firms in the accommodation and food services sector exhibited the most substantial sales growth, with a notable 12% increase in 2022 compared to 2023. Also, formal sector firms outperformed informal sectors, experiencing over twice the increase in sales in 2022 compared to 2021. Anthony Kraka is head of the Department for the Industrial Statistics at the Ghana Statistical Service.
High uncertainty in terms of business expectations. At first, it tells us that business are able to invest in risk. They will be more risky and do a lot of investment, because it minimizes the extent to which businesses can go for loans and invest, because if you are not sure about the next 6 months, whether you're going to make sales, whether you're going to recover your costs and all that. And so this is not good enough for us. We need to, as a country, do well to minimize the effect of this uncertainty. And this uncertainty is largely coming from high inflation, first to receive high inflation, high taxes, reduction in sales and all that. And so these are, and you can see that this really matter the size of the business. All the size of business think alike. They all think that, well, inflation is a problem, high tax is a problem, inflation is a problem. It's not like there are severe variations across the sizes, which tells us that businesses themselves and this country have these challenges. And if these challenges, just at the macro level, are addressed, that will give the uncertainty that we're talking about in this country. And of course, if uncertainty is minimized, then they can go for more money to invest and expand and employ more and have higher GDP and all that.
So that was Anthony Kraka. He's the head of the Department Industrial Statistics at the Ghana Statistical Service, bringing an end to the business segment here on Hot Edition. For more business stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Obudu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe. Up next is sports, and Andam is seated ready to bring you the latest from the world.
Good evening. It's time to bring you the latest in the world of. Good evening. It's time to bring you the latest in the world of sports. My name is Emmanuel Andam. We start from athletics in the African Games, which is currently ongoing at the University of Ghana Stadium. In the women's 100-meter hurdles, Nigeria's Toby Amusan finished in first place, clocking a time of 13 seconds. Ghana's Doris Mensah finished in seventh place with a time of 16.89 seconds. In the women's 100-meter final, Ghana's Mary Boakye finished in 7th place, while in the men's 100-meter final, Benjamin Azamati, who is the country's fastest sprinter, finished in 5th place, while Barnabas Age finished in 6th place. Now in the women's 5,000 meters, Ethiopia mopped the floor as 3 of their athletes clinched the first, second and third places in the competition. So that's a little update for you with regards to the athletics. Now still in the African Games, Ghana's under-20 team, the Black Satellites, will take on Senegal in the semi-finals of the football competition. Now, speaking ahead of the game, under-20 head coach Desmond Ofair says they are confident and will be aware of the threat Senegal can pose.
A very tough opponent. Senegal is a very good team. They did really well last year in the AFCON, both under-17 and under-20. Went to the World Cup, represented the nation well. 1 loss and 2 draw. So Senegal is a very well-structured football nation. And we know Senegal. Senegal is a very good side. For us, I think we have to stay true to ourselves. What we did in the past games, we have to replicate, but also multiply. So it means that we have to be more intense. We have to be more tactically aware. We have to be sharp in the duels, take care of the ball more, and be very well organized. And that's what we stand for. But we just have to improve. And I think we're improving by game, but we have to stay focused and focused.
So that was the voice of Black Satellites head coach Desmond Ofair, now formed the under-20 team to the senior national team, the Black Stars, who have arrived in Morocco for the upcoming friendlies against Nigeria and Uganda. Now, Captain Andre Didiayu and 12 others have all arrived in camp now. Speaking of the Black Stars, Nathaniel J, who received his first Black Stars call-up, has contributed his under-20 triumph to his recent call-up.
It was really awesome. You know, I've played in the under 17, under 20, under 23, but you know, winning the AFCON, that was a bigger step for me in my career. Because you know, it's not easy to go in a tournament and then win the ultimate. Mostly you just go maybe in the group stages, you have been knocked out or in the round of 16, but you know, that year we had the opportunity to win, and then it opened a lot of doors for me. I had a couple of offers outside, and then here am I now. So that tournament really improved my career.
So that was the voice of Nathaniel Ej. Now, Manchester United forward Kobbie Mainoo has decided to represent the Three Lions of England, as Gary Southgate has included the 18-year-old in his squad for England's upcoming friendlies. And that will be all for Sports News on Hot Edition. My name is Emmanuel Andam.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Andan, for bringing us sport. I was telling you earlier about the emolument for Article 71 office holders. Let's bring you that report from Noble Crosby Annan.
The Presidential Committee on Emolument has been tasked to review and recommend changes to benefits received by Article 71 office holders. The committee's mandate was to ensure transparency, fairness and fiscal responsibility in determining the compensation packages for beneficiaries. The establishment of the committee was not without its fair share of concerns and criticisms. Chairperson of the committee, Dr. Janet Mpedu-Fofie, speaking at a conference of stakeholders to deliberate on review processes, advocated for a dispassionate conversation.
We want to focus on the solutions. What do we have to do? What are some of the things that we have to do to change this around? If it's a question of the timing, any suggestions as to how we can do this change and move it from the end of the last year in term, for example, it's been suggested that perhaps you could consider the beginning of the term. How do we do that? We know what the issues are. We use the term ex gratia, even though, as I said, it's not to be found anywhere in the Constitution. Why have we stuck to that term ex gratia with all the confusion that comes as a result of that usage? We have to have constructive engagements. It's not just grumbling. Every change, every suggestion that comes, let's think about it.
Some former members of parliament have been sharing their concerns.
There has always been public outcry about what the MP enjoys without considering the output of the member of parliament. The member of parliament sacrifices a lot, not only of his time and effort, but even the resources that they are talking about. You don't have any future, after you have left parliament, of sustainability. You cannot sustain yourself if you don't have any job. So if and being paid those, emoluments and other allowances, people begin to cry out. I don't really get it.
It's 4 years calculation. And then additional allowances. It becomes so huge, and then it becomes for public discussion. So as soon as the committee is being put in place as soon as possible, it kills all the issues.
The conference on the emolument and privileges of Article 71 office holders brought together various stakeholders, including heads of government agencies, civil society, and many more.
Noble Crosby Annan filed that report, and that's how we end Hot Edition here on 3FM. Our top stories. Executive arm of government accused of meddling in Parliament's work after letter from presidency requesting the legislature to cease transmitting anti-LGBTQ bill for assent. Also, Public Utilities Regulatory Commission orders ECG to release a comprehensive report on revenue collection and distribution to various players in the power sector, as well as release a timetable for power consumers. We also brought you the latest from that military helicopter making an emergency landing at Bonsukrum Agona Encounter in Western Region. That statement from the Ghana Armed Forces. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us today. Log on to 3news.com for more news and enjoy the rest of our programs. Good evening.